and welcome back to the Argyle Agentic AI Summit. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would love to introduce our speakers, Rebecca Warren, Director, Talent-Centered Transformation at Eightfold AI, and Michael Watson, Director of Training Delivery at Eightfold AI. We are excited to have Rebecca and Michael with us for a thought leadership titled From Pilots to Performance, Why AI Success Depends on the CIO and CHRO Alliance. Welcome, Rebecca and Michael, and over to you.
Hey folks, super excited to be here today. We are talking with you, the Argyle audience, about moving from pilots to performance, why AI success depends on the CIO CHRO Alliance. I am Rebecca Warren, and I have Mr. Michael Watson with me. We will introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit more about who we are, and then we'll jump into our topic for the day. So, Rebecca Warren, I have been at Eightfold, crazy, for over 5 years now. My background is in talent acquisition, moved from practitioner to leadership over to customer success at Eightfold, which felt like a strange jump at the beginning, but made it work. So spent a couple of years in customer success, helping to build out the team, moved into leadership there. And now I sit under marketing, and I am in the talent-centered transformation area where we spend time thinking about thought leadership and how do we move from jobs to talent, from org charts to potential. All right, I'm going to flip it on over to Mike. Michael, I'm not sure how you want to be addressed, but you're up.
I'll go by either. I respond to both. So, Rebecca, thank you all so much. Argyle team, nice to see everyone here. Michael Watson with Eightfold. I just celebrated my 6th-year anniversary with Eightfold. It's amazing how
Amazing.
time flies when you're having a great time.
Goes quickly.
I was originally a customer of Eightfold's. So I remember having these conversations with my CIO and about, hey, I want to implement some AI technology. And this is back in 2018 and 2019. People looked at me like I was crazy,
Nobody's thinking about that.
right? So happy to be here. You know, the first 5 years with Eightfold helped build out the customer success team. Rebecca was my very first hire. And
Whoop,
then she
whoop.
broke my heart and left me to move on to other parts of the organization. And here we are reunited again. So
Here we
uh,
are.
for the last year, I've been running our customer enablement and specifically our education delivery and training delivery. So I'm happy to be here with you all today, and we're excited to talk about this pilot purgatory paradox, if you
What is
will.
what does this mean? Okay, so let's jump in. So we did a survey recently with Thought Lab. We had over 700 executives, and we got their thoughts on AI and HR and tech. And let's go back one slide. Stay on that pilot
Oh,
purgatory slide. Yep, all good. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we learned, and this pilot purgatory came out of that. So a lot of folks talk about AI like it's just a software update, right? Michael, as you introduced yourself,
yeah.
um, you talked about where when you mentioned it to folks, they kind of looked at you like you were a little bit crazy. Like it feels like it's just a project. We just need to click install. We need to get our coffee, and we're going to come back to productivity gains all because of our update on our software. But that's not really what's happening, and that's really never how it's been. So, what we're actually seeing is folks who say, we're going to do AI. And so they say, we're going to do a pilot or a test. And so they pilot, they find a complication, they pause, they rename it. It's still the same project. They swap out the team, they try again. Sometimes they quit. And that cycle is what we're calling pilot purgatory, right? Um, so I think the important thing to say out loud, and then I want to get your feedback on this, Michael, is these companies, in my opinion, they're not picking the wrong technology. They're not doing it wrong by saying we want to invest in AI. But I think the challenge is they underestimated what it takes from experimenting with AI as a project to actually changing how work gets done. So I'm going to pause there. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I definitely see it. I think because it's so easy for us on the consumer side to download the ChatGPT app and just start using it,
Mm. And think
that
we're doing
sometimes,
AI.
right? Yeah, and then sometimes we think that we can just automatically transfer that to the corporate world, and we don't realize that we have whole legal teams there now that have to review this, the data
Hmm.
retention policy, the DPR, they have to redline contracts. I was somewhat fortunate, and back in 2018, I was such the early wave of AI that I didn't run into that. But I also think that a big part of this pilot purgatory is running into legal. Hey, we got a
Yeah.
great idea for AI. Let's use it, right? Let's set up a pilot. Oh, this is a great use case. And then all of a sudden it gets to legal, and legal is like, hey, we're not
We're
using
not doing
AI.
this.
That's right. So, I think there's a lot there, but I think because we have these apps on our phone and because now everything has AI, right?
Hmm.
Everything has AI, right? We
Yeah.
just think it's that easy. And I think, if you are going to move beyond the pilot, right? It's picking the right AI solution and knowing what to look for, I think is really, really important. The things that keep you out of hot water, if you will, because that's what's going to
Yeah.
get you out of that pilot, if you were to ask me.
Okay. So I think there's a lot of reasons why people do a pilot. It feels easier. It's kind of dipping your toe in the water. I think it's smart to test it to do a dry run right before you throw it out there. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to throw a spicy statement at you, and we have not rehearsed this, y'all. So I'm not sure what he's going to say. I haven't really thought about exactly what I'm going to say based on how he responds. But I think so. Let me just say this: if your AI pilot has lasted more than 6 months, it's not a pilot. It's organizational avoidance with a budget.
Uh,
Okay, what do you think about that? Because
uh,
I have a point of view, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Here's my point of view on this. I think if that's the situation you're in, someone is afraid to put their name behind something because they're afraid that if it fails, they might get fired.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
about this all the time. I remember, when I was first using AI, we used to say this all the time. If something is so low in a price that it becomes like a tool, well, then I can buy it, throw it to my teams. They can use it. If they don't like it, we can move on to
Hmm.
something else. But once that
Hmm.
price point creeps up to where, hey, if this doesn't work, it's my job.
My name's on the line. Right,
That's
right.
right. So I think that is part of the reason why someone can say, "Well, hey boss, it's just a pilot. We're just checking it out. We're kicking the tires."
Yeah.
Right? I can give you all those analogies. But I think has a lot to do with it as well, is people are afraid to make the wrong move. And I remember saying this to Fergus, one of our leaders on the team, right? I'm building out our AI strategy around learning and development. There's so many innovations coming out right now, and they're coming out so fast. It's almost like I'm afraid to make a choice right now because what's coming next week,
Right.
right?
What if
So
you
I
miss
think
out, right, on the
that's
the
right.
next great thing?
So I think those two things are kind of leading to this pilot purgatory, right? Hey, let's just go with a pilot. I don't want to sign up anything long term. Maybe something else is going to come around that I can jump over there to a pilot real quick. And then
Mm.
you find yourselves jumping from pilot to pilot and never really having any measurable ROI.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm on the same side of this as you. I think not just if I'm gonna, I don't want to be responsible for picking the wrong tech or the wrong solution, but I also see that there is a challenge to get people on board. And if you call it a pilot, you don't really have to do disruption. You could do a little training. You could do a little, I would even call it change management. Just like, hey, here's something to try out and test. You're not investing in it and you're not encouraging folks to change how they think about work. So a pilot without a plan is just a project.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Yes, we have agreed. Okay. Uh,
I would love to be able to
one check.
uh, obviously we can't, survey the audience here, but would
Right.
love to hear, you know,
Yes. Message us with your
yeah,
thoughts. Find us
yeah,
on
exactly.
LinkedIn.
Drop something in the chat here. We're going to be watching here. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
All
good.
right, ready to move on to the next one
Let's
here?
go on to the next slide.
All right, here we go. Moving on.
Ooh, we're talking about data and gaps. Okay. So when we look at what we've got here on the screen, we've got 92% of companies doing AI, whatever that means, but you only have 21% of companies that are actually scaling AI, that are winning the AI game. So we just talked about that cycle of pilot, obstacle, stall, restart. Um, so this this is going to be about the messy middle, right, where things tend to get stalled and they don't get over that hump. So we've already talked about some of the challenges that might get in the way with different teams, different reasons for folks maybe not investing in the pilot. Um, so it's not about the model didn't work. It's more about, again, not having that plan. We don't know where AI fits. Maybe we don't have the skills. We haven't thought about getting alignment across the organization. Um, and so the messy middle is where AI strategies will come to die.
Yeah.
Um, and they don't usually end with a big blow up. They just kind of fade away, right? How many times do you feel like, oh, remember that report we used to send out or that project we were working on? What happened? We just decided that it really didn't work or we didn't care about it or nobody was paying attention to it.
No one's
So
reading
it
it.
it just kind of gets lost, right? So I want to get your reaction to that, but before you respond, I also want to say that when people say they're doing AI, and you talked about it a few minutes ago, like ChatGPT, is that doing AI? I think automation sometimes gets confused with AI. So I'm not even sure if people know what doing AI means because it means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So lots for me that I just said. Over to you, Michael, to give me your feedback on all the things.
Yeah, one of the things I talk about in training when we're talking about customers is the different types of AI,
Right.
right? Are we talking about like if A, then B, some simple kind of routing trees, or
Yeah,
we
that's
talking about like a
automation.
real neural network understanding things? So
Right.
I think what happens here is why we see 92% so-called doing, right, experimenting with AI, but 21% scaling. I think there's a chasm there is because it's what I call boiling the ocean.
Mm,
I
I
think a
do too.
lot of these companies are looking at AI and saying it's going to solve everything. It's a panacea. So unleash the hounds, unleash the gates. We're doing AI on everything. Marketing is making AI commercials. Sales folks are having AI bots deliver content. Your HR is off running with everyone is doing everything, and there's no consistency, right? So once again, understanding where you're at in your organization, what you're trying to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're the CIO. Everything's got to come through you, right? Everything, they're going to have single sign-on. They're going to have to log in, the security clearance, ISO, all that stuff is under your purview, right? And you can't let folks go rogue. So, I would encourage you instead of trying to boil the ocean,
Yeah.
right? Smaller piecemeal. Hey, we're going to start with this small team. We're going to start with this piece of AI technology with the end and the goal of changing this. And here's our right, and then expand from there. Hey, this worked, this didn't. Let's adjust in there. But I think this whole notion of just trying to do too much with it early on gets you into almost analysis paralysis. What do I really do?
Well, you're trying to kind of peanut butter spread AI on all the things, right? You talked about all the different groups. Oh, we're doing AI, we're doing this. But if you just throw it over the top, it's kind of, I don't know if this is the right description. You're just kind of putting lipstick on a pig, right? Like you still got the same things underneath, and slapping AI on top isn't going to fix it. So that messy middle could happen for a lot of different reasons when you're doing AI, but maybe you're doing AI, but you have bad data. So you're getting bad, conclusions. Maybe you don't have the framework set up for it to be able to anchor onto, or maybe your systems aren't talking to each other. So you could have really great things happening in one system and your conclusions are correct, but if you're not talking to each other, again, those frameworks and that data is not doing what it's supposed to. You mentioned this too about governance. Maybe you don't have the right understanding of compliance and what AI really means and what we're doing with it organizationally. Maybe you've got a couple of departments who are rocking it, but it can't scale because you're not looking at that organizational framework. So I think there's a
Well,
lot of
and
reasons why we
remember
land in that messy middle.
what scales for my engineering team that's using AI to write code is going to be different than me, the HR team that's using AI to, using Eightfold to identify skills inside your organization, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be different. So,
Yeah.
it just can't be one lump sum approach to it, right? And that's what I mean. So if you're going to do the pilot for some coding with your engineering teams, right? Pick your 4 or 5 engineers that are forward thinking, that want to lean into this, that don't look at it as a threat, right? You got to be judicious when you're kind of picking through this, right?
Yeah.
And flushing out what's going to work best for you.
Okay, so let's flip to the next slide and let's talk a little bit about the myths of an IT upgrade, right? So when we look at what it means to do AI, and we talked about that pilot purgatory paradox project, right? All of the P words, right? Is that it a lot of folks look at it as an IT upgrade. So, the things that we are looking at above the surface that feel like a software deployment, there's a whole lot of things that are underneath the surface that we have to pay attention to. So the tech is one thing, but that human friction, the culture, the structure, those are all pieces that are way more complicated. And I think, when we treat AI as an IT upgrade, we're kind of keeping it in the box, right? You talked about responsibility earlier. It's IT's responsibility. They own it. But then adoption stays shallow and people don't understand it. And so they
Well,
work around it.
Becca, it just hit me when you mentioned it, right? I never feared losing my job because IT was doing an upgrade to the next Windows version.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, that's a great way to think about it.
But now all of a
Yeah.
sudden, when when IT is like, "Hey, we're bringing all this IT," now as a human, I'm like, "Whoa, is my job at risk? Like, what's going on?"
Yes.
And I think this is why, going back to the topic here, the partnership between CIO and CHRO, it's so important, right? You have to leverage the human resources side because the human aspect of it, the fear, the
Mhm.
trepidation, the
Mhm.
uncertainty,
Mhm.
the reskilling, all of that is going to fall upon your HR colleagues to help you with that.
Right.
So, right. So that's, this is why it's different, right? I said, oh, yeah, you're updating to a newer version of Zoom. I didn't think I was going to lose my job, or
Who
you're switching,
cares, right?
you're going from Citrix to Microsoft Teams. Yeah, I'm good.
We'll be fine. We'll be
Right?
fine.
You're bringing in a bunch of AI recruiters. What?
Ah,
Right?
well,
Help me understand how that's going to benefit me.
yes, because, and that's exactly right, because what slows the progress isn't the tech, it's the human friction that the tech or AI exposes, right?
That's right.
People then start protecting their roles because they think they're at risk. There isn't that sense of transparency. Managers don't know how to evaluate performance when now we've got AI augmentation. Teams are being asked to change workflows without the understanding of what that actually means. So I say this all the time that AI doesn't create the issues, it amplifies the ones that already exist. So that's when you start seeing the cracks and all of the things come out because we're like, okay, now this tech is showing us maybe we don't have it all squared away the way that we think we did. So
That's right.
let me throw out a spicy statement and we'll see what you say.
Yeah.
So along those same lines, but to the next level. AI doesn't expose skills gaps. AI exposes leadership gaps. And that's why AI makes people uncomfortable. Do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that?
AI
Is there a
doesn't
shade of
skill
gray?
gaps. It exposes leadership gaps. I think it actually exposes a little bit of both. Uh,
Fair. Okay.
right. So, I'm trying to think of a skill recently. I've been doing a lot of video editing, right? If you would have
Okay.
talked a couple years
You've
ago,
learned a ton of stuff since you've been in this new role. You're
right?
doing all kinds of
Yeah,
things.
right. Because I got to create these courses and put them out. So, if you would have asked the AI 2 years ago, hey, what are Mike's skills on articulate and some of these, skill jar and LMS? Zero, right? But once again, like on the flip side of that, AI, tell me how Mike can figure this out. Oh,
Yeah.
Mike has this, Mike has that, Mike also did
Potential,
this, right?
capability.
Mike has run YouTube channels, Mike understands this, Mike understands that. So when you bring all of that together, right? So yes, I think it might expose it, but I think it helps. And then with the leadership gaps, I you're either going to be, and listen, I'm giving you this point of perspective as an early adopter. 2018, I was like, hey, let's just lean in and use AI in HR.
Mhm.
6 years ago, 7 years ago,
Mhm.
right? So I'm giving you that perspective. I I've lived through transitions, right? I've lived through, in recruiting, moving from phone books and three ring binders to Craigslist and
Yep.
Yahoo and Career Builder and Monster, right? And then I saw that switch to LinkedIn, and now I'm seeing, instead of running to LinkedIn, let's leverage AI.
Mhm.
So, I'm long enough in the tooth that I remember some of these changes. And once again, I know that the folks that are going to be successful in this are the folks that manage their people through these changes. You just
Mhm.
can't leave it up to them and say, hey, we got this great software here. I mean, it's the stat's not in here, but I think there's a stat that shows 70% of any type of software implementation fails because of the change management part.
Right.
And then
Right.
going, I mean, what is the change management part? It's how do you manage the people and the change? So
Right.
I'll get off my
Right.
soapbox. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
I
It will
think
expose some leadership gaps.
yes. And here's where because I didn't write these statements to say you agree or disagree, and I'm not writing these statements because I agree with them. I just kind of throw it out there to see where we land because I don't necessarily think um, I think it does expose skills gaps. And the statement that I made says is it exposes leadership gaps, and that's why it makes people uncomfortable. I'm going to flip that a little bit, and this lands in your wheelhouse now too. Is that I think what makes people uncomfortable is we have to transition from being a knowledge expert to a curious learner. And I think that's what makes leaders especially uncomfortable because typically we put leaders in their role because they know the most stuff, right? That's who you elevate is the ones who have the knowledge. And they are the keeper of the knowledge, right? So you come to your leader and say, I need help solving this problem, and the leader knows how to do it. When we shift to saying, I don't have all the answers, I'm figuring this out alongside of you, and I want to learn from you just as much as I want to share my knowledge with you. When we shift into that learning capability, that curiosity, that saying we're going to figure this out together, it makes people uncomfortable because they don't have all the answers. So I think that's where this statement is sort of true as well, is it exposes the things that make us uncomfortable because we all don't have the answers anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? I think the part that makes people uncomfortable, especially leadership, right, is just um, not understanding and having some of those answers, and that's okay, right? And I think, Rebecca, I think this is the greatest thing I ever did when I started working here, right? And you're a perfect example of this. I hired people smarter than myself to surround me. If you're
I
not willing to
believe
do
that to
that
be
as a
true.
leader, or the organization you're in doesn't support that, then it's a culture issue. Like we're not going to solve that issue
Yep.
here, right?
Yep.
That goes to the culture in which you work,
Yep.
right? And I've always come from a culture of if I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to focus on the things that I do well. And then the things that I don't know well, I have to hire great people,
Yeah.
those
You need
that are
people to
going
fill in
to
the gaps,
advise
right?
me. That's right.
Yeah.
And if you are the type of leader that doesn't want that because of ego, or you think you're going to end up working yourself out of a job, I don't know what to tell you, right?
Right.
I don't subscribe to that philosophy.
Yes. I think there's a lot of shifting that's happening, and I think we have to continue to work together and ask those questions together, which leads into our next slide, talking about that partnership that we feel absolutely has to happen between the CIO and the CHRO. Because if those groups aren't aligned, all of those things are going to break, just like you talked about, Mike, right? We've got a great engine, right? So we're using a little bit of car analogy here. So we've got a great engine. We've got AI and IT delivering that horsepower, all the things, above the surface that we see. But if we don't have the driver, if we don't have the people and the strategy determining how that work gets done and helping to navigate that road, it's going to be a big challenge. And so that ignition is the CIO and the CHRO working together to understand the tech and the cultural shifts and the changes to work that need to happen. So there has to be that really strong alignment, because that's where the work gets reshaped when people understand what the role is, how do they fit in, what does that culture look like. Otherwise, things are happening in silos and are super disconnected. So, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think, right, that's where great leadership comes in, right? And that's why I can point to bad leadership. I could point to Blockbuster. I could point to Kodak. I
Mhm.
could point
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
BlackBerry,
Yep.
right, where they didn't get the tech trends coming and it killed them, right? So to all the CIOs out there, right, you're on the front lines to make sure that your company doesn't go non-existent,
Yeah.
right, or extinct due to technology passing you up or technology from your competitors passing you up.
Yeah.
Uh, right. So you have a big job in that as well, and making sure all this technology that comes into your organization is safe and secure, and you don't get hacked, and right. So you have a lot on your plate. So I
Yep.
think leveraging that relationship with the CHRO, right? Because it goes back to that point I said earlier, where 70% of software implementations fail because of change management.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you didn't get HR involved early enough. You didn't bring in the right people to interview the right people. Hey, what's in it for you? What are you concerned about? And then addressing your communication plans around all of that. That's what makes things successful. So, um, you know,
Yeah.
I think we can just go back and look at where a major project was successful. 9 out of
When you
10
had that
times,
alignment.
you're gonna see, guess what? You're gonna see a tight relationship between the top level executive in IT and the
Yeah.
top level executive in HR.
Yeah, because I'm watching the time. How are we doing?
We got about 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this slide up and we're going to the last one. We only have 5 slides. So I'm just going to say this, and we can leave this for a debate for another time, or feel free
So
to
good.
reach out if y'all have questions about this one. But in my opinion, it feels like the if the HR team, if the CHRO, if the people team isn't in the room from day one, the organization has already decided that adoption of said tech project, whatever, is optional. I'm just going to let that sit there. That's going to make people really uncomfortable.
I want to respond to it, but I'm not. I'm gonna let
We're
it
going to
sit.
the last one.
It's like a sneeze that won't come out. It's just
Oh,
gonna
I
sit
know.
there.
It's hard. I
Done.
know. I'm like, I'm just going to throw it out there and then we're just going to move on and let people sit in the uncomfortable. And I'm kind of uncomfortable with that statement too. So no, I'm not going to lie. Okay. So our last slide here. So we're talking about shifting that conversation, right? All of these things that we have talked about over the last, 25 minutes or so have been the idea of why the pilot purgatory happens, what gets to the messy middle. And what we have talked about is that connection between people and tech is critical for anything that you're looking to do in the future to move forward. So um, for a long time, we had concerns about technology being around budgets, around infrastructure. But what's really slowing us down now is that humanity gap. So 70% of employees are worried about being replaced by AI. And when that fear is not addressed, resistance shows up quietly and everywhere. So we have to work on flipping the narrative. We need to get a different lens on how we're thinking about this. Those leaders that are succeeding with AI scaling are focusing on augmentation, that combination of what is going to take work off of our plates, what can we do as humans to amplify our roles. So it's augmentation, not replacement, and shifting from hiring for static roles at a point in time to building skills and looking at roles that are going to evolve. What does that learning potential look like over past experience, which we've talked about? So it's shifting from AI being something that people have to stop or work around or brace for and starts becoming something that they grow with. So, especially Mike, and what you're talking about, Michael, what you're talking about in terms of enablement and learning and training, like how are you seeing this being critical as a shift to help people feel more comfortable with augmentation rather than replacement?
Yes, I do agree with that, and I think I have a little bit of a cheat code here because I have a 20-year-old in college right now,
Oh, tell me more.
right? So he's, what generation is that? Is that generation? I forget. It's not alpha.
Is it Z?
It might be.
Z alpha beta? Because I think my grandkids are betas.
Anyways, right? I even started talking about this with Generation Alpha, the next one that's going to be coming up here pretty soon. The
Yep.
13-year-olds.
Yep.
All they're going to know is AI.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs like me, I'm going to fade out within the next 10, 15 years. As an organization, you shouldn't be worried about people like me. You should be building your systems for the generation alpha that grew up
Mhm.
with one of these at their end of their hand and have embraced AI from day one. Those are the
Mhm.
folks that you need to embrace. So, when I think about this old paradigm and new reality, I actually think we're closer to that new reality than further away, just because of these
Mhm.
things that have been embedded in our lives for so long now,
Yep.
right? Over 10 years, 15 years, these things of the smartphone. Uh,
Yep.
Before that, it was the BlackBerry and go.
Pagers.
That's right. So, I think this new reality, the more you embrace this and your organizations embrace this, the better off you're going to be. You're going
Yep.
to be able
Do
to
it in the right
attract
way.
that talent and land that talent because, frankly, people like my son are looking for forward-thinking companies like
Mhm.
that, right?
And I think to that point, and then we'll wrap it up, is that your son and folks that are in that same space are going to look to join organizations that are on the forefront, that are moving forward. I would be surprised if he was like, I'm going to go join this company that's been around for 100 years and is still doing everything on paper. I think that would probably be
I'll give
confusing,
you a
right? Like
perfect
a
example.
rotary phone.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example, right? It was just at my dad's house for his 88th birthday on Saturday, right? So I got my 88-year-old dad there and I got my 20-year-old son there, right? And I showed him that AI interviewer commercial I made with Santa Claus, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Super funny.
And what does my dad say? I would never interview with an AI bot. What does my son say? I'd rather interview with an AI bot than a human,
I would only, right?
right? So, I mean, there I saw it right in front of my eyes, right? And
Yes.
with all due respect to my pops, I love my old man, right? I'm not trying to recruit him. I'm
He's
trying
not
to
your target
lure.
audience.
That's right, right? So,
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
your audience, play to your audience.
Yes. Because scaling AI, it's not a tech problem, it's an alignment problem, it's a culture problem, right? So HR, CHROs, IT, CIOs have to be aligned. It's not on the sidelines of one group or the other. There has to be that connection. It's the center of whether or not you're going to be able to move from fear to excitement, where you're going to move from silos to organizational growth, whether you're going to be able to move out of that pilot purgatory and get those things done. So I think we're at time. Mike, last 2-second wrap up. What does somebody need to be thinking about as they walk away from our conversation?
I think biggest thing for me as a CIO is when you're looking at any AI solution you're looking at, just make sure you understand the size of their data sets. That's where you're going to eliminate bias.
Okay.
Larger
Okay.
the data set, the more robust that data set is, the more it's going to cleanse your data. Think about it like this. If this was a glass of salt water and I took a drink of this, it would be so salty I would choke. If I took this and I dumped this in a freshwater pool, and then I took that cup back in there and scooped up water and took a drink of it, I wouldn't taste the salt. And that's what happens when you use large data sets in your AI model. So I would encourage all of you to, when you're evaluating vendors, tell me about your data set, the size of your models, how you built these. Critically important. Rebecca, that's all.
Evaluate the salt. Okay, and then
Right.
my last
Exactly.
thought there is move from a knowledge expert to curious learner, and partner across your whole entire organization every time you can, regardless of generation, regardless of title, regardless of role. Partner, communicate, build that trust, and that'll build your resiliency and allow you to scale. All right, that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for joining us. Peace
Thank you
out,
all.
all. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you both so much for such an insightful session. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. Our next session will begin shortly, so please click on the join button that appears on your screen, and we look forward to seeing you there.